What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Hive Prometheus. Today we're going to go over a renewed tier list now that we've had Sub-Assault come out as the new detachment for Tyranids, and we're seeing some of the units shape up to be the counter picks for the current meta. It is pretty hostile right now, but I think there's a lot of things that have shifted, especially because of the new detachment. So I just wanted to do a quick rundown of where the shifts in the units are and sort of the importance of those units that you take in your lists now. So I'm going to throw us over to the tier list, and I'm just going to run through as quickly as I can. All right, so starting at the top of Nearly Always Taken, there's one change here from the last tier list I did. I did bring the Excrin down out of Nearly Always Taken because with Sub-Assault, the detachment rule also allows anything in the detachment to reroll ones and hit in shooting and fighting, so you don't necessarily need an exocrine to prox him by targeting to shoot a unit first. It is still a very solid unit. You're still going to see it in almost every list. You're still going to see it in Crusher, in Invasion Fleet, potentially as a pick in Assimilation. It's still going to be used in often or 3+. Going back to Nearly Always Taken, I think there's no surprises here. I think the Biovore and the Lictor have stayed in Nearly Always Taken just because of the low points cost, low investment to score your secondary points. The Biovore for 50 is a great backline objective holder. It has a large base, so it can screen anything coming into your deployment from deep strike or reserves. Lictors have infiltrate, fights versus load up, stealth. If they kill a character, they can eat their brain and gain a CP. For 60 points, I think they're probably right where they need to be. I'd like to see them for 5 points less just because looking at the Death Guard points for minor characters, they're a little spoiled for choice. They've got T6 characters with maybe less wounds for about 40 points. So I think all things considered, he's still fairly pointed. I do think there are a lot of other things that are overpointed compared to the other armies in the meta right now, which are the best armies or best picks. Going back down to often used in 3+, I think Hormagaunts now are just solidly our best battle line for 20 less points than the Gargoyles. They still have advance and charge. They're OC2. They're smaller footprint. They're easier to hide. Their high movement is still very, very attractive at movement 10. And in both Sub-Assault, Invasion, and Assimilation Swarm, where I think are the 3 best detachments right now, you have an ability to heal them and bring back models. So if they're not killed outright, hiding in cover, getting a 4+ save, you're able to regenerate some of them back, potentially to steal objectives later in the movement phase with Sub-Assault. But they're just so solid. I think if you take the first 4 units in this tier list here, you have a very solid skeleton of a list. Biovore, Lictor, Excrin, Hormagaunts. Going down from that, just because of how often we're seeing them in different lists, you're potentially even seeing Gene Stealers in 5-mans in Sub-Assault. You're still probably going to see the big, large bricks of them. Probably one large brick of them in Invasion Fleet, just because of crit lethals and their devastating wounds is very attractive against tougher targets. You potentially could take them in Sub-Assault and deliver them to do a bunch of mortal wounds, but I think because of the relatively low toughness of Gene Stealers, there are other melee threats that you can deliver with the tunnel markers to get 6-inch charges that have a little bit higher survivability for less points. Broodlord, I kind of wish he was a pick that you could take solo, but I think he's really is only kind of useful if he was less points. You could take him solo. For 80 points, I think his bonuses have to be taken with the Gene Stealers, especially with -1 to hitting as long as he's engagement range and giving devastating wounds to the Gene Stealers. I do think Norns are solidly and often used in 3 detachments. I still am using 1 in Crusher Stampede. Using them in Sub-Assault really helps to balance out the relative squishiness of the other snake bodies. Ravners and Trigons only having a 4-up or 3-up save with no invuln, no mortal wound protection, and a relatively low OC. They're attack dogs. They're going to want to go and kill something and then die in return. Whereas a Norn, as long as he sits on his preferred objective and doesn't die, he secures primary that you wouldn't normally have, picking up and moving units all over the board with Sub-Assault. Synaptic Nexus is still great for him, and I think also I've seen multiple lists that are running 1 or 2 Norns in Invasion Fleet just for the saturation of 5-up Feel No Pains that you can have. Going down to Ravners, the new Ravner datasheet now reduced the number of attacks per model from 7 to 3, and the strength down to 5, but the AP stayed at 2 and the damage went up to 2 from 1. They're still twin linked. A unit of 5 now, not 3, is 125 points. I think that's a little overcosted for a 4-up armor and 3 wounds. There's a lot of damage 3 in the game right now, and there's a lot of things that can get easy lethals or crit lethals. If they're not put with a unit of the hyper-adaptive Ravners, they're good to clear chaff, make tunnel markers in Sub-Assault, or as a utility pick to pick up and put down as a backline threat in other detachments. You're definitely going to see them in Assimilation Swarm because you can give hyper-adapted Raveners and Raveners some really good enhancements that normally would only go on Gene Stealers and the Broodlord. Their damage 2 is also something that's sorely needed in Vanguard Onslaught, so you're going to see them there. You're going to see them in a lot of places now. The damage 2 weapons is specifically something that Tyranids don't have a lot of. We have a lot of damage 1, damage 3, d6 plus 1. We kind of have holes in our damage saturation. Damage 2 is great for their points. I do think they could come down maybe to 110, but I think for the time being, the reason you're probably taking them and attaching them to Hyper Raveners is so that you have a brick that can potentially kill a larger vehicle or a knight. That brick being 290 points, I think is a little too high. I'd really like to see about 10 points off of each. Going down to the Tyrannifex, he's a solid anti-tank. The ability to heal him in Assimilation Swarm, Sub-Assault, give him a 5-up Field of Pain in this Invasion Fleet. He's one of our most survivable units other than the Norn, specifically just because of the 4-up Field of Pain to Immortals and the 4-up Invuln, and Singular Purpose gives 5-up Field of Pain as long as you're on his preferred objective. The damage blank is great. Any shooting incoming, he can blank one of those, and any detachment where he has a heal, as long as he doesn't die or he's left on 5, you can heal him up so he's not bracketed, and he's potentially above half so he doesn't have to take a Battle Shock check. A lot of people are kind of upset that 2 shots ends up being kind of swingy, especially into things that have 4-up invulns, like Knights who can rotate Ion Shields. I am seeing some lists who are taking 2 Rupture Fexes just because of the overlapping fields of fire that you can get from the 4 shots is a lot more consistent. It also covers a lot more firing lines on GW terrain if that is your preferred terrain layout. And the little shots, one of the only monsters that has more than 1 gun allows him to split fire and potentially do chip damage to lower toughness infantry or to clear chaff for your tunnelers. His ability to be picked up and tunnel through the tunnel networks in Sub-Assault is incredible. Your ability to express threat even with 1 Tyrannifex in Sub-Assault now is so much greater, and I think that's the reason why people are leaning towards 2. But I think as long as you keep him hidden, he chooses his firing lines very carefully, and then you're able to tunnel him into a place where your opponent isn't able to deal with a 2-up save T12 body. You're able to push him into people's faces a lot better now. Going to the Maleceptor, I think he's come up a few placements, but he's still just so solid. 3-up armor, 4-up invuln, T11, 14 wounds, -1 to hit within 6 inches, and if they're below half strength, they're -1 to wound. He is a little anemic in melee, only having 3 attacks. I really wish he had 4, but he's just like the Excrement in that he's got a damage 3 weapon, D6 plus 3 blasted, is AP2, so potentially giving him Enfilading Emergence and Sub-Assault to give him sustains on 6s and sustains in melee could help out his anemic melee if you're going to be charging him in. It also allows him to ignore cover, so the AP2 can actually go onto things that normally would armor contempt, and then it would be AP0 in cover. I think he's just a solid pick. I'm running 2 of them in Crusher, I'm running 2 of them in Invasion, I'm running 2 of them in Sub-Assault, so often used in 3+ detachments easily, and that's not something that just I'm doing. Going down to the hyper-adapted Raveners, these guys at 165 I think are overcosted, but they're still very good. The Ravener Prime has 6 wounds instead of 3. He also has 6 attacks instead of 3. So he alone is sort of like a 6 Ravener. So assuming a squad of 5 Raveners is 125 points with no extra rules, he's essentially 2 Raveners in a trench coat. So the rough equivalent, if they were normal Raveners, would be 150. And then they also have Sustained, Free Heroic Intervention, and Free Rapid Ingress. So 15 points to add on those 3 rules is pretty good. So I know there's an argument to be made that they're probably perfectly pointed, but I really think when combined with the other Raveners, they're too expensive. I would really like to see that squad go down about 20 points. But they're Strength 5, AP2 for 2, Twin-Linked, Anti-Monster, Anti-Vehicle 5+, so they're specifically better into targets that are T11 or T12+. We have the Neurotyrant, specifically because you're probably taking him either A, solo in Invasion, Synaptic Nexus, or you're taking him in Assimilation Swarm, attaching him to Tyrant Guard or to Zoanthropes for the Brain Council. But also now he's a favorite pick in Sub-Assault because now instead of having to deal with their 5 or 6 inch move on Zoanthropes or the Neurotyrant respectively, you can put them in reserves, you can bring them out of a tunnel, they're within 24 of anything that they want to shoot, and you can really express their split profiles a lot better. You have the glow up for the Psychophage because One, his random attacks went away. He now has 6 flat attacks. He kept his same defensive profile, but he lost the aura of 6-up Feel No Pain. But now, if he hits something with his Flamer, it gives an additional AP in melee until the end of the turn. This is really important for some of our AP2 creatures that want to go into larger vehicles, where AP3 is really the only way we're going to consistently kill things, like tanks with a 2-up or 3-up save, or T11 or T12 vehicles. I think the big thing overall is that he moves 12 inches now, so potentially bringing him out of reserves, rapid ingressing him, and then being able to attack something on a board edge. And then also, if he's coupled with another melee monster like a Screamer Killer, a Haruspex, and you get to increase the AP of those monsters as well, he is a force multiplier that we've needed for a long time. And lastly, and often used in 3+ attachments, we have the Hive Tyrant. This is the normal walking Hive Tyrant. He did come down in points to 195. There was a change to Hive Commander so that no longer can you use his ability to subsidize a CP every player turn. It is per battle round, so we effectively did lose 5 CP with that change with him. He still is a good pick in Invasion because you have great enhancements. He's great in Crusher Stampede because you're going to want a castle of shooting monsters anyway to give them assault and lethal hits. And I think he also still is good coupled in Assimilation Swarm, especially if you're going to be giving him an enhancement to get +1 attack and +1 strength with Tyrant Guard, or if that squad kills something, they get +1 attack for the rest of the game. Going down to often used in 2 detachments, we have the Trigon. I think that did come up from often used in 1, specifically because Trigons are great in Sub-Assault now. You can turn 1 into a Prime and effectively make him strength 11 AP2 for 3, hitting on 2s, and then with Sub-Assault's detachment rule, re-rolling 1s. Putting Enflating on him essentially means that he's going to be getting on average 14 to 15 attacks through, and then strength 11 wounds a lot of things on 3s or 4s. So for 160 points, that becomes a beatstick. And then if you couple him with the Psychophage, getting AP3, he can blender more than his points consistently. The problem is keeping him alive after that combat. It's Swarmlord. I think Swarmlord really belongs in Sub-Assault. I think he is a flex pick in some other detachments like Crusher Stampede or Invasion Fleet, depending if you really need the Vect Aura or you like to use Overrun with him in Invasion Fleet. The ability to tunnel him to pretty much any side of the board that you need a Vect Aura and to have a melee beatstick that now hits on 2s, rerolls 1s with his 8 attacks is awesome. I think he's expressly meant to be taken in Sub-Assault, and he is the one Tyrant that I have in that detachment right now. He is the Winged Hive Tyrant. You're still going to be taking him in Vanguard Onslaught just because of the advance in charge. The -1 attacks, psychic ability within 12 is still very needed, especially if you're going to be engaging in a lot of combats, which you're going to be doing with Ravners, Von Ryan Sleepers, Gene Stealers expressly. He also did come down in points. He's 170 now, so the same points as a Maleceptor. I think the lower toughness is not necessarily something that I like. The Twin Linked with Strength 10 is just so good. The Neurolictor. Neurolictor, I think, also is seeing more play. That Brain Council is more popular, and the ability to give a Screamer Killer more AP because the Psychophage is more popular. So the combination of Brain Council, Neurolictor, and Screamer Killers potentially gives you 2 or 3 times the access to Battle Shocks that you would normally. I really feel like they need to come down 10 points. 80 for what they do is kind of a hit or miss. Harspexes came up because I think they're really good now in Sub-Assault, especially with the Psychophage. Being able to give his 14 attacks with his mouth AP2 and his big claws AP3 makes the 125 points actually punch up, which is nice. And he's still 3-up save, T11, 14 wounds. And there is an ability to heal him in Sub-Assault, just like there's an ability to heal him in Assimilation Swarm. Melee Warriors have come up a bit because now you can use them in Warrior Bioform. It's not a super popular detachment, but I think now they're also a flex pick in Sub-Assault because a 3-man squad has 21 attacks, hitting on 3s, rerolling 1s. The ability to deliver them without a prime and with outside of Vanguard Onslaught's advance and charge, using the tunnels expressly makes it so that 75 points can kill more than what they're worth. Next up is Death Leaper. So for the same points as a Neurolictor, you could just have a Super Lictor with a 4-up invuln and a 3-up save. He also has another Battle Shock potential that anything within 6 of them at the beginning of your opponent's command phase must take a Battle Shock check at -1. Also good synergy with all the other Battle Shock pieces that we're seeing. I think if I had 80 points, I'd rather take him than a Neurolictor. Next up is Gargoyles. Gargoyles, I think, just are still 5 or 10 points too expensive. They used to be so good, I think, when the meta specifically didn't have things with high movement or redeploys or abilities to uppy downy a lot of units, such as Grey Knights, Necrons, sub-assault players. They can come out of a sub-assault tunnel, shoot, and then move their 6 inches, so they effectively can screen at 1 inch. Next up is the Pyrovore at 40 points. You know, he's a tough body. He strips cover. If you really have 40 points that you don't want to take the points and flex into another Lictor or another battle line, I think he's fine. I think he's potentially good just as a unit to put in reserves. He comes on, he flames something, strips cover. We have the shooting warriors, specifically just because of warrior bioform and as a flex pick in assimilation. They're cheap enough that in assimilation, they can do an okay amount of damage, and their melee does synergize really well with the Psychophage. So a block of 6 of them has some okay shooting output into specifically bodies T5 or 4 or less, and then their melee can potentially go up to AP 3 with the Psychophage. So I think just because of those detachments, that's why he's up here. And the Warrior Prime is up here because I do think that you can still join him with melee warriors in Vanguard Onslaught, and I think very rarely you might see them join a squad of 6 of those warriors in Assimilation Swarm. Screamer Killers I think are up here only because of Sub-Assault. The detachment's ability to use tunnel markers to kind of get whatever we want into melee, assuming we can make 6-inch charges, and you spend the CP to reroll them. His Scream synergizes well, as I said previously, with everything else that kind of wants battle shocks to happen. His melee is solid, especially for 135 points now. So for 10 more points, you're getting flat damage 3 attacks at AP 2. This also synergizes great with the Psychophage, so you can make him AP 3. And then in Synapse, he's strength 11 instead of strength 10. He kind of ends up expressing himself as a Trigon Prime, albeit not hitting on 2s, but hitting on 3s, rerolling once at 25 less points. Screamer Killers, I think, are pretty cool in Sub-Assault. Rippers are there just as mobile apothecaries in Assimilation Swarm, and as a flex pick for 25 points if you really need something to score you engage on all fronts or behind enemy lines, assuming your opponent doesn't screen it well enough. Molochs are here because I think even though it's been ruled that you can't use sub-assault tunnels specifically for their ability to do mortal wounds, I think you want them to be coming in first to create those initial tunnels, do chip damage, and then string along your Ravners and your Trigons to go into melee. So I do want to try a list where I play 2 or 3 of these in Sub-Assault. I'll be working on a list like that over this weekend. Tyrant Guard are only going to be seen in Assimilation Swarm. I'm sorry. Now that we've lost the additional layer of defensive buffs from the Psychophage with the 6-up Feel No Pain aura, Tyrant Guard for the points are just not good. I think if they had 3 attacks on their Crushing Claws, cool. If they were AP 3 on their Crushing Claws instead of AP 2 and only 2 attacks, cool. But now they really need that synergy from the Psychophages to do any melee damage. They could be AP 3 with the Scything Talons or the Crushing Claws. That's cool. That's great. And you can heal back a 4-wound model in Assimilation Swarm. But nowhere else are they useful, unless we end up getting something like what Death Guard has, that if you have Tyrant Guard within 3, your Tyrant gets blown up. I think that's something that we kind of need. The Assimilator, I think he's here because you can play him in Sub-Assault. I think being able to deliver him outside 6, shoot a vehicle, and as long as that's one of your charge targets, you can charge 4 inches. He doesn't necessarily need a reroll at that point because it's a very low chance you're going to miss that. Having a reroll charge aura around a monster coming out of a tunnel is super cool, though. He is also on a large base. I think also he's just so many points. Every time I look at him, I love this model. But for 275, he doesn't have nearly the defensiveness as like a Great Unclean one. He doesn't have a 4-up invuln, and he doesn't have a Feel No Pain unless he's chosen a specific objective. So I'm praying GW can just drop the points on him. Only reason Venom Throps are here is to help give cover and -1 to hit to your assimilation units. Nobody's running Unending Swarm because it's bad. Nobody's using Invasion Fleet because you're not using them to defend Gaunts unless you're Sam Pope and you're running a Swarm list with some Excrants and Tyranifexes. But for 70 points, they're not bad. But going down to Fringe Use, Old One Eye, I realistically should have pulled up to used often in 1 detachment. He is awesome in Sub-Assault. The problem with delivery now is not a thing. Originally, he was something that I would bring as a attack dog, kind of like a Haruspex, or a Maliceptor or another Trigon in Crusher Stampede, and I'd bring him in from reserves, or I'd Rapid Ingress him. But he has native AP3, and then for some reason, if he is attacking the thing that's Psychophage hit, he's AP4. Oh, baby, now we're getting some synergy. And for 150, I think he's justified. He is such a beatstick. I think he's honestly one of the best beatsticks in Sub-Assault other than Swarmlord or the Trigon Prime. I think he should be in Sub-Assault lists. Carnifexes are down here because maybe you're going to attach him to Old One-Eye in Sub-Assault, and maybe you're going to bring a Carnifex brick in Invasion Fleet, but you're not really going to see it anywhere else. There is a argument to be made about the next unit, the Mucilid Spore. You could bring a couple units of 2 for 60 points, and they're very point efficient into high toughness models like Knights, Rogel Dorns, things of the sort. But I think you're only bringing them in Sub-Assault, so you could bring them from reserve, charge them into Mortals. Neurogons, I wish they're 40 points instead of 40, and maybe they had sticky objectives like Grots do. Or generated CP or something. They don't do anything, especially with WTC's ruling that they don't gain synapse. I just don't understand. They're just not used. The only reason you would bring them is you'd bring a squad of 22 for 90 points to deny Cull the Horde. But that's like not that important this edition because of challenger cards. So why are they here? What is my life? What is their life? Okay. Next up is Von Ryan's Leapers. They're also too expensive. They should go to 65 for 3 or 60 for 3, and then maybe they're okay. Like, no, people are only using them as a flex pick in Vanguard Onslaught, maybe, and they just don't do anything. And they're AP1. Maybe they go to AP2 with Psychophage. Please just, like, make their melee AP2. Like, why are Warriors AP2, but they're not? Sure, they've got a lot of attacks. Yeah, they've got 6-up invuln. That doesn't matter. They're T5. They're 3 wounds. They're going to die to bolters. Next up, Barbgons or little Godzillas. I'd love it if these guys were further range, like range 30. Maybe if they had indirect. Like, yeah, on paper, they're good for the points. They're T4, you know. What are they, 4-up armor, 3-up armor, 2 wounds apiece? Yeah, that's pretty survivable, but they don't do anything. There's no reason to have a bunch of blast shots at AP 0. They don't kill guard fast enough. They don't kill orcs fast enough. They're just not good. All right, Harridan. Harridan could be good if he was like 380 points, not 610. Look at what Knights do for like 385. They're T11. Basically the same wounds with the 6-up Feel No Pain. Yeah, Harridan's 30 wounds. Yeah, Dire Biocannon. Yeah, whatever. You can bring him out of tunnels and Sub-Assault. Yeah, that's cute. But he dies instantly. 3-up armor, no invuln. And his melee's AP2, D6 plus 1. What an insult. Last edition, I'm pretty sure he was AP3, flat 6. Like, he's crazy bad. I almost should have just put him down in the back rooms, but you can use him. Toxicrin, I have one. I magnetized the arms. He's just still not good. He should be like 120 points because he's going to die faster than a Haruspex because he's a larger footprint. Tervigons are not good because Gaunts are not good. And for 170 points, Crushing Claws hit on 4s or something. If she had 5 attacks hit on 3s with Crushing Claws, maybe there's some argument to be made there that bringing a squad of Gaunts as a backfield objective holder with her is tough enough to survive, but it's not. I only see one person ever use the Spore Assist, and it's just because it screens a part of the board and it shoots out Mucilids, and when the Mucilids die in a Simulation Swarm, you can heal a model, and it does mortal wounds. So, like, there's some cool synergy there. Parasite and Mortrex is just too many points, and yeah, he's Lone Up, and yeah, he moves 12, but he needs to be like 65 points, maybe 5 more than a Lictor, just because of the extra movement. His melee sucks, and he dies to normal Marines. Wish he was better. He's also not unique, so like if he got good, you could run like 3 of them, and that would be interesting. Having a bunch of bats running around, but no. Oh my god, Hive Guard. Okay, this is my hot take. So I've seen some people, especially on WTC formats, bring them in Sub-Assault, specifically because of the Anti-Vehicle 2+. It's AP1. Yes, it's damage 3, but it doesn't even kill a knight. It barely even kills light vehicles. And we're still spending 180 points on a squad of 6? Sure, they're T7, and yeah, they Overwatch on 4s, and nobody cares. No one cares. If they came down another 20 points, maybe they'd be worth something. But unless their shot cannons were AP2, and they go to 200 points for 6 again, they're still bad. GW keeps dropping the points on them. Actually, the first data slate, they increased the points. I went back and looked for some god-awful reason. The Hierophant is funny because you can bring him in because now GW's ruled that he doesn't have an official base size. So you can fit his base in wholly within 9 of a Sub-Assault tunnel. So you can tunnel him in. And then he's T14, he's got 2 shooting attacks. His melee's still hilarious. It's strength 20, AP2. But with the Psychophage, you can make him AP3. He's also a transport. So there is a world where, like, for funsies, you could bring him to like an RTT, throw some Gene Stealers in him, have a Psychophage, and then you just have like a crazy large, expensive monster pop out in the middle of the field who's OC 12 and can still shoot and do actions on 2 objectives. So you can actually do cleanse. I might try that. It sounds kind of funny. I might do that in TTS, but he's 810 points when he should be like 450. It's crazy. It's just crazy. Spore Mines are here because they are too many points for what they do. Mucolids are better because they do more mortal wounds, and they're only 5 points more. And then the back rooms are for units that are basically completely useless because the points or legends, or because we have no use for transports, because that's also too expensive. The Harpy and the Hive Crone are hilariously expensive at 215 points or more. I haven't even looked at their sheets. They do almost new damage. And then they're T9, 3-up armor, 12 wounds or something hilarious. They could be like 110 points. Bloat drones are 100 points, and they're 10 wounds, 3-up, 5-up. Unless those two went to like 110 or 115 points, like basically a Carnifex, they're garbage. They're so bad. Like, I don't think I've seen a single person except one person run Harpies this entire edition. The Tyrannicide is also just bad. I was about to say some bad words here. He could be like 65 points and take the guns off, and then maybe I'd use him. Because then maybe I could deliver something in Crusher Stampede. Oh, wait, that's right. I can't put anything more than 12 wounds in a Tyrannicide. So, like, a Maleceptor can't go in. A Tyrannifex can't go in. A Norn can't go in. So any versatility that we could have in our lists, it's not there. So, anyway. I'm glad how I slowly transitioned from this is a tier list into a rant at the lower end of fringe use. But that's how I feel about these units. Everything up there in Nearly Always Taken or often used in 3 is pretty awesome, pretty cool. There's a lot of flexibility. I think Sub-Assault is like the most interesting detachment to play right now, other than my beloved Crusher Stampede because of the Psychophage buff. So now I can run an actual combined arms list of 50-50 shooting and melee. But that is going to be about all for today. I also just wanted to add at the end of the video here, if you've made it this far, that my Discord is in between its first and second season of a TTS league that we were running. We had 10 people in the first league, and I think a lot of people had a lot of fun. It is for 6 rounds. The first 3 rounds are lists locked. You can play whatever faction you want, so you could get sort of an RTT experience. It is just 1 round a week, and people on the Discord talk to each other to make sure that they can get that game in, usually before Monday morning. And then after round 3, going into rounds 4 through 6, you can change your list, or you can change your faction completely and play something different. This is really just to try new lists, play new people, build a little bit of community, and it's been successful, I believe, thus far. We've been able to recruit a few people in from the wider community, and if there's anybody out there who'd like to join us, I'd love to have you. We have some really great people in there. So, thanks for coming by. I hope you enjoyed this tier list and a little bit of the rant, and I'll catch you next time on Hive Fleet Prometheus.